I think that in the last couple of years, starting with COVID, there's been a lot of disruptions. And it's something that I think starting with COVID, we have learned that this has now become part of our life. We do live in a VUCA world. It is volatile, it is uncertain, and we need to just be really prepared for it. And echoing what Abhilash said, that and also what you said, that we've become really agile. We have learned from COVID that things are moving really fast and you have to have a business continuity plan in place for everything. And we've just gotten faster at decision making, because you cannot take a really long time to decide on something. You need to plan for any kind of disruption that will come. And we also need to think about how it's affecting our employees. There's something, say for example, when COVID hit, travel stopped, right? And one of in our firm, we have something called the Global Swap Program, which is like an exchange program where for 6 months, staff from one office go into another office to work from there, to learn about how they function, how they work. So when COVID hit and there wasn't any travel, one of our main impact there for the staff was that swap has stopped, So just adjusting constantly to how to keep the employees happy, how to adjust in this new world. And the leadership really learned to trust employees, that even if they're working from home, no matter where they're working from, whatever it is, we can trust that the employees will do their work. So I think something like work from home became something that became really important after COVID. And that's something that earlier wasn't so prevalent. It was just maybe two days a week in some firms. But in other firms, after COVID, it's become more accepting, and staff can take work from home. Managers won't feel like, oh, maybe they're not working from home. It's become a more normal culture. So I think there's been a lot of change when it comes to the way leadership has been looking at things, the way employees have been adjusting. So a lot of the different disruptions that have happened, they've taught us different things. And we have learned to be agile. We've learned to just go with the flow and make changes as we can and just adapt. So adaptability has really increased. Wow. That's what I would say.
Yeah. Ashish.
Yeah. So first of all, thank you for having me here. So I work with Nayara Energy, which is in the business of oil and petroleum products. I head the audit and the risk role, and I'm part of the senior management team at Nayara. So I do echo that COVID was a big disruptor. But if you look at it in hindsight, then majority of the outcomes have been net positive in terms of efficiency, resilience, impact assessment, and so forth. What I'm perhaps going to be talking about is what we've been seeing since last year. So since the Trump administration has taken over the US presidency, what we've been seeing is that the global geopolitics has been at an unprecedented turmoil. The world order definitely is deteriorating, not rule-based. The First America policy is beyond economic and foreign policy. It basically means that many things can get legitimate with the conduit of national interest. Where does it manifest? Yeah, I mean, it's the sort of a background, but then the global supply chain is hugely disrupted with restrictions on trade and technology, which is getting weaponized, and that's real. Instead of free flow, now you have protectionist regimes. You also have difficulties to get access to the markets. Those markets that were built over decades of perseverance and trust building have been suddenly lost, especially if you look at a country like India, where we do not have any competency in terms of or dependency in terms of technology or commodities. So most of the Indian exports can be easily replaceable. So that is something that definitely impacts the overall Indian economy, and since our businesses are connected with the outcome of the Indian economy, it definitely creates a direct impact. Where we do see issues arising out of that is because of the armed conflicts that we are seeing, especially since last 5-6 months. Now it does not just impact the geographies where you have these conflicts, which obviously results in huge loss of life, disruption, economic impact. But then because of that, the supply chain gets impacted in a huge way. And that impacts the global supply chain in terms of commodity prices or availability. We have not seen such movement in core commodities like crude and gas the way we've been seeing recently. And we do not know how it will play out in the near future. We also have issues on other commodities, not just the core commodities, for instance, metals and agricultural products and so forth. Now you combine that with the issues that we see in the money markets, or for that matter in the capital markets. So Saudi Arabia, as you all know, ended the petrodollar pact last year. So now the US dominance is definitely at risk in terms of being the global currency for global oil and trade. We do not know who is going to emerge as the alternate to US, and until that happens, there is going to be such a huge disruption in terms of the currency challenges. Most of the currencies have appreciated against US dollar, but India again has been at the receiving end, where India perhaps is the only global major economy that has declined against US dollar by more than 10%. Just imagine an organization like Nayara, where it's 90% dollarized balance sheet. Yeah, it's huge disruption. It's a huge impact. Yeah. Again, if you see the funds flow, yeah, Japan after 3 decades have started increasing its interest rate. That has created such a squeeze in the global capital markets, because people have run to reverse their yen positions, and that in fact has again resulted into fund outflow out of a country like India, where we've been seeing for the first time money being pulled out of a capital markets. I think almost $20 billion have been removed in just 1 year, which has not been seen since liberalization. So the context is that with this sort of a scenario where you do not know what crude sources will be available for you, you do not know which geographies you'll be able to serve, where the dependency or reliance is almost 50% of your revenue is into export markets, and you just do not know to what extent you will be able to carry on with those markets, and more importantly, what is the risk profile of those geographies. Likewise, the global supply chain, the availability of vessels, the availability of cargoes, the risk premiums have gone through the roof. There is not a single insurance company that is ready to take the covers to be able to deliver products or bring crude. Likewise, if you see the Indian retail market, yes, of course, it's we are a capitalist country, but at the same time we are socialist. So our fuel prices are controlled. Yeah, and just imagine where you have an organization where you have almost $6 to $10 billion of your revenue coming from retail, which is bleeding because you have no ability to adjust to the global prices. So how do you balance your product portfolio? How do you balance your GRMs to meet your long-term investment objectives? How do you conserve capital? How do you conserve cash? How do you build resilience within this ecosystem just to survive the day, and then to make sure that you have still the ability to carry on with your long-term growth plans? So I would say that the couple of things that most of the organizations of our businesses do adopt, which obviously we do adopt, is to have different operating models depending upon the scenario that you are into, and then having the agility to be able to take those quick decisions in terms of how do you switch your geographies, how do you switch your long-term contract partners, how do you switch your key markets, how do you change your product slate, how do you make sure that the refinery is still operating at its intended capacity, and so forth. So it's something which is not easy to navigate, especially it's when you have a large setup, but that's the only way to survive, because if you then carry through the structures, and I'm not against the structures, but if you carry through the structures of committees and delegations and down the line chain of command, it'll never work. So you need to have empowerment, you need to have responsibilities, you need to have very clear goal setting, and then you need to make sure that each of those elements in the organization deliver with that respect of that particular part of the business, so that as a whole, you can run the organization just to make sure that it survives the day. Yeah.